Hello, everybody. Today we're going to go over how to interpret the gap overlap report in SIMSYS. This is to determine if you have any holes in your data or missing pieces or maybe even some overlaps. So you're going to select your agency. Then we're going to go to Bill Administration and then drop down to Service Date Gaps Overlaps. All right, this report is going to generate based on the default parameters. I like to leave the vendor list all checked because I want to capture any holes. But it just depends on how you want to use this report. And then I uncheck, and you're going to want to do this also, uncheck all of the buildings and then only go back and check the buildings you're interested in. So you really only want to look at your own college. So that's why you would uncheck everybody and then just check yours. What I'm doing now is I'm going to pull open 2 colleges that I know we're working on cleaning up the historical data, filling in gaps, and taking care of some overlaps here. So I know we'll have something to look at. Okay. I'm going to change this data range to pull it back a little bit farther. And then you're going to scroll down and you're going to hit apply. So that's going to take your parameters and generate that report. Okay, you can view this directly in your browser. It's going to first separate by the vendor, the utility vendor. So the first one we have here, it's going to be alphabetical, is American Electric. And I believe this takes up the whole page. So something up here is you have your page toggle and go over the page, and then you have more utilities listed out. Okay. Looks like there might be a third page to this one too. And that's just because I have 2 whole colleges in here. So, like I said, you can view this directly in your browser if you're just looking to quickly see some areas of interest. And you can open up more tabs and then go work on those. But I like to export the whole thing to Excel so that I can highlight, make notes, forward it, save it. Um, okay, it's being slow. Oh. There we go. I don't know what's going on there. All right. So once this opens, I'm going to pull it over there so you can see it. I'm just a little bit more comfortable using it in Excel just because I can mark all over it. Well, I already clicked on it once. It's just going to be one of those Mondays, I guess. So today you can see it's 3/14/22. That's going to show up in the report. I don't think this is it. I think this is the previous one I was looking at. Well, it might be. Let's see. Great. Okay, so this is it. Okay, great. All right, let's talk about how to interpret this report now that we have it open. It's color coded here between the gaps and the overlaps. Gaps are yellow, overlaps are purple, and we'll see the overlaps here in a little bit. You really have like 2 reasons why you would have a large gap. So this is almost a year's worth. I mean, not full year's worth, but almost of a gap here. And this one is a genuine gap. So you're going to go over here to usage month. The last one that was in there is the top line. And I'm sorry, the dates before the gap started is the top line. The dates after the gap closed is the bottom line of the record. So the last service date that was in there is 7/2, and then it starts again on 4/5. So that's where the large gap lies, is between this period and the second period. The consumption and cost on here on this report is purely just to help you identify the bills that are in the system, the one before the gap and the one after the gap. Okay, you can also identify by usage month. I like to use the service dates. Just personal preference, I guess. Okay, so that one reason you'd see a large gap is there's just genuinely a large gap in the system. For some reason, bill entry ended here. It picked up again on this date. The other reason it would do this, and I'm going to need to scroll down. It's going to have to catch up with me. Okay. Let me find a good example here of what I'm trying to say. Okay, this is a good one right here. We're going to look at this one. So there's a large gap, 557 days. And then you see today's date. So this is an indication that bill entry stopped here and did not resume. So this could be just an error in the bill entry process, or it could be that this bill has, no longer been issued because the meter has closed. And if that's the case, you just need to let me know so that I can close it in Census as well, and it will no longer show up in this report. Okay, so the gap starts on 9/3 and it ends on today's date, because that's just the farthest it can go in order to give you a gap range. Okay. Let's look at this one, the one below it. Okay, if you have a gap that is roughly a month, so between 30 and 40 or so odd days, you know that you're just genuinely missing a bill in the system. If the date that the gap ends is today's date, that just means you are about a month behind in entering the bills into Census. I just so happen to know that this utility is, the way it bills is about seemingly a month behind. So this is going to be the norm. And so you're just going to know that for your college. You're going to know how each of your vendors do their billing. So if all of these have a gap of 41 days, I'm really not going to be too concerned. But if you see a gap of 3 days, that is out of the norm. So I am going to look over here. It's not going to give this 3-day gap if it's at the most recent billing cycle. It's looking for gaps in the, it's looking for gaps that we care about, basically. So the beginning of the gap started on 4/2. The end of the gap was 4/5. So that just means there's like a billing error here, whether the utility made the error or the user that entered it into Census made the error. Either way, you just need to go in there and make a continuous service date period. So you're going to change either this day or this day to be basically the same day, so that you have a continuous line of service. The reason you want to do that is because the Energy Star report that we report to does not enjoy gaps or overlaps in the service period. Which brings us to overlaps. You also don't want overlaps. So the Energy Star report hates the data that has overlap service period. So we start the overlap here, and here is where we end the overlap. So the service period here goes to 5/20, but the next bill starts on 5/10, and we know that's not correct. That's probably a utility generated error, but it could be entry error. It doesn't really matter. It just needs to be fixed. Here, if we have an overlap of 26 days, that is likely to be some kind of duplicate bill. We come over here and we see the data range, and it's not a straight duplicate because the service days are different, but there's definitely something weird going on here. And I would just pull up this in Census, and I would pull up my bills and just see what is exactly going on here. This one right here, this overlap, when you have something that is about 30 days, it's probably just going to be a straight up duplicate bill. And over here we see the service days are the same, and then we actually see that the consumption and cost are the same as well. So this is just your classic duplicate bill. You'd want to go into Census and take care of that in your preferred method. All right, have I covered everything? I am not sure. So basically, the way to interpret this, you see a gap or an overlap, you see the days in which you're interested. You can make an assumption based on these two things right here as to what exactly is going on. Here's your meter that you can look at. If you can't interpret this report the way that it's written, it's understandable. It's a different way to look at a bill in Census that needs to be taken care of. But you could just go see that there's a gap, look at the meter name and about where it is, and just go in Census in the bill management and take a look. All right, I think that basically covers it. You got your gap, your overlap, the amount of days, and where you can find them. So use this information and let's get some good data. Thanks, guys.